How's it going, guys? Peshcats here, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Cinderella Girls changes on the restriction list. So this is the new JP restriction list, so English players, you don't have to worry about this. It only applies to the Japanese game. It was announced a few days ago, and it's going into effect on February 26th, 2017. There were 4 sets that were affected: Cinderella Girls, Monogatari, Kantai Collection, and Haruhi. But I'm not going to be talking about the other 3. I'm going to be talking about the CG changes in this video, giving my thoughts on how decks are affected, what cards they should give up because of the choose list, and what card they can use to replace those cards. So let's just get right into it. So the card that was added to the restriction list was Rin Shibuya, so it's now a choose 1 of 4 between Miria, Kome, Power of Smile Rin, and the level 0 Rin. The deck that this obviously affects the most is Triad Primus. It made use of Power of Smile Rin and Rin Shibuya in the same deck, and it's been winning quite a bit. Whether that can be attributed to overrepresentation or the actual power level of the deck, we can't really prove, but I think we can safely say that Triad Primus is a good solid deck that you could take to a tournament and beat some people with. So anyways, I want to address what I think should be taken out of the deck, like my personal opinion, but then I also want to give my thoughts on both sides and what you could use to replace each of the options. So first deck I want to address is Triad Primus, obviously. The 2 choices you have are the Power Smile Rin and the Rin Shibuya. So the first thing I want to do is I want to show you guys what I think the choices are if you decide to take out each of those 2 cards. So first of all, we're gonna start with what I chose to keep in the deck, which was the level 0 Rins. So I decided to choose my level 0 Rins from my choice list. And the reason I chose that is because Triad Primus, if you look at the level 3 line, outside of Power Smile Rin, you're basically running just a bunch of level 3 early drop healers. You run TP Rins and you run Onzus. Those are the most popular level 3s to run outside of playing the Power Smile Rin. Unless you were like me, where even before the choice list, I was playing 1 copy of Kyoko, but that's not important. The main level 3 line that a lot of people like to play is 3 or 4 Power Smile Rins, 4 TP Rins, and then 2 Onzus. So the thing that makes Onzu and TP Rin so good is that you're able to bring them out early and you're able to play a lot of them. And a big part of that is being able to fulfill their early drop condition. Now obviously 2 or less climaxes, that's not exactly the hardest early drop condition to fulfill. But Onzu having 5 or less cards in deck is significantly more difficult. And Rin Shibuya helps to fulfill these early drop conditions by controlling the size of your deck, controlling your refresh, things like that, and it allows you to get your early drop healers out onto the field very easily. Without Rin Shibuya, the only milling that the deck really has is a Now Brainstorm, which you can only do so many times in 1 turn because you have to tap 2 characters. But if you really wanted to, you could go Rin into Rin into Rin, you could chain, and you could get your deck down to the exact size that you want, so you could drop your early drops, take control of the board, and then you can win from there. So that's the reason why I think the Rin is the better choice of the 2. Now that being said, I think there's an argument to be made for Power Smile Rin to stay in the deck as well, but I don't think it's as good of an argument. So the advantage that Power Smile Rin has over the Rin level 0 is that it is a very consistent finisher. It requires only really a climax combo, stock, and hand size, because the trigger requirement is very easy to fulfill because it's when your other character attacks. You don't have to reverse or anything, and you can even do the restand from getting reversed on your first attack. So it's a very consistent way to output damage during the late game because there's not really many ways that your opponent can play around it outside of an anti-damage. So but yeah, so I already gave my thoughts. I'm keeping my level 0 Rins in the deck, and now let's talk about what is replacing Power Smile in the deck. So what I decided to go with it didn't take me long to think of it. Literally, like, I sat down for like 5 minutes and I was like, yeah, I'll just do this. I'll give it a shot. So I had 4 power, or actually no, I technically only had 3 Power Smile Rins in the deck because I had already replaced one of them with a Kyoko. And what I did was I just took out the other 3 Power Smiles and I put in 2 Anyas and a second copy of Kyoko. So now my level 3 line looks like 4 TP Rins, 2 Anzus, 2 Kyokos, 2 Anyas. And there are good things to be said about both the Anya as well as the Kyoko in replacing Power Smile Rin. So the first advantage to running this level 3 line as opposed to running the Power Smiles before is that your level 3 game is no longer dependent on having a specific climax in your hand. Previously, you had to get the Triad Primus climax in order for you to do the restand combo, which, to be honest, wasn't too hard because the Power Smile Rin does have the draw 2, drop 2 top deck stock, so you're able to dig for your climax. But with this lineup, you're not dependent on having to dig for it anymore. So you can have a pants in your hand and be okay with it. Another cool thing about running these level 3s is that your level 3 game actually isn't dependent on like any climax. So like I just said, you could have a pants and be okay with it, but at the same time you could have no climax and still be okay with it because both of these finishers, or well, both of these cards, don't require you to have any climax in your hand in order for you to use their effects. Another thing I really like about these cards is that they're not as susceptible to anti-damage as Power Smile Rin was. Power Smile Rin, if you got like money countered on the first attack, well, you just lost your entire package. Whereas with Anya, if they decide to money counter the Anya, you can bring out a Minami level 1, and that card is not affected by anti-damage. So you can attack with that and you can still deal damage, which is very cool. With Kyoko, she has on attack, pay 2, drop 1, burn 1, which happens before anti-damage occurs because it's on attack, which is another way that you can play around that, which I think is really nice. Now, another thing I want to note about these cards is that Kyoko specifically, I want to note that she is a cantrip because she's on play, check top 3, add 1. So you can use this to dig for other healers or other copies of Kyoko or other copies of Anya or whatever you need, which is really nice. It's very flexible. So I like that a lot about the card. And one more thing about Anya that I want to note, that's actually a very interesting interaction. So with other decks, like you would probably see Anya in a Blue Zuki deck, one that runs like the Uzuki Restander and like Minami level 1 combo, is that if you don't have the Minami either in your hand or in your waiting room already, then the only way that you can grab it is by hoping that you trigger it and throw it into stock so you can pay it out. But a funny thing about this deck is, let's say you have your Anya and you play a stock Soul Climax. If you give the on reverse effect to one of your characters and it successfully reverses the opponent, you can search your deck for your Minami so that you can get it into the waiting room for Anya's effect and then play it to the field. One thing I do want to note, though, if you do decide to try this, is that so Stock Soul, I'm sure plenty of you are aware, Stock Soul Climaxes, they only give stock, or they only give soul to the characters that were on the stage when you played the climax. So if you use Anya's effect while you have a Stock Soul Climax on the field, the Minami that comes onto stage will not have the extra soul from the Stock Soul. Just keep that in mind. But yeah, I took this to locals yesterday, and I've tested with it a bit online as well, and I think these changes are very, very comfortable for me. I don't think it's too bad of a change at all. Like, a lot of people are saying TP's dead, but I honestly think that if you just make some change like this, you keep the level 0 Rins, it's very serviceable. You can very easily still play this deck, and it plays extremely similarly to the way you played it before, when you could just run Power Smile Rin. Even Anya restands, it's really not that hard to get. Like, Anya, assuming you fulfill her condition for having 3 or more other blue characters, which is very easy because this is still a very dominantly blue deck, she gets the plus 1k power on top of the global level support from having Karen in the back row. So she easily becomes 12-5, 13-5 if you have a pants, which, like I said, because this deck is not reliant on having a specific climax at level 3 anymore, you can just grab a Pants and then play that, and you have a 13-5. And then you have the Minami having 2 soul on the second attack, potentially 3 soul if your opponent has an open slot. So I think it's really, really cool. And lets you be very flexible in the level 3 game. I like it a lot. All right, let's talk about the change that I did not make, which is if you choose to play Power of Smile, you choose to keep Power of Smile in the deck. So you're giving up Rin Shibuya. So this is something that the guys at Board Savior, the Singaporean guys, are going to be trying out. Personally, I don't think it's as consistent. So they are replacing Rin Shibuya with Natsuki from Idolmaster Set 2. And I think a lot of Japan is actually thinking of trying this out as well. Or maybe this could just be people buying these for the Bluezuki deck, because Bluezuki does like to play Rin and Komei in the same deck. So maybe this is their out for that. But first, let's talk about the TP. So something that Board Saviors is trying is taking out the Rin Shibuyas and playing 4 copies of Natsuki. So for those of you who are not aware of what she does, it's on death, you can pay 1, clock the top card of your deck, and discard a card. And if you do, you look at up to 6 cards from the top of your deck, you choose up to 1 blue and up to 1 red character from those 6 cards, show them to your opponent, add them to your hand, send the rest to the waiting room. So the thing about this setup is that you're going to have to lean more towards red if you want to have viable targets to grab off of this effect. Currently, the most popular red cards are Anzu, Miku, and Momoka level 0s. Or, well, the Anzu level 3 and then the Momoka and Miku level 0s. Those are the most popular red cards, as well as the Sae counter and the Mayu counter. So, in total, I think that's about, on average, like 8 or 9 red cards, which I don't think is enough for grabbing with the Natsuki effect. At the same time, if you up the count of non-blue cards in the deck, then if you don't have good like field control and you're for some reason like you're losing your early drop level 3s like your TP Rins or whatever, you might be forced to play just like random 0s from your hand during the late game. And this could potentially screw up your Power of Smile Rin, because she needs 3 or more other blue characters on the stage in order for her to pull off the restand. But if you're running too many cards that aren't blue, then you might not be able to pull off your restand at all. So hypothetically, let's say you're running 4 copies of the Natsuki. If you're running 4 copies of Natsuki, then the red you would probably want to run, in my opinion, probably around 12 to 14 red cards. So you play Anzu's, Miku's, Momoka's, Sae, Mayu. Like I said, that's probably around 9 cards. So let's say, like, for example, you run 2 Anzu's, 2 Momoka's, 2 Miku's, 2 Sae's, and 1 Mayu. So what would you want to do to up that count to 12 to 14? I think Kaneko level 1 Suicider is a card that you could comfortably fit into the slot. Because it does synergize well with your Triad Primus Climax combo at level 1. You give on reverse search to the level 1 Suicider, you just suicide into the level 1s and you get your guaranteed search. So I think you could run that. I think you could potentially up the count on Miku level 0, because I think that card honestly is just a very good card, and you're going to want to have more discard outlets if you have extra climaxes in your hand, because you took the Rin Shibuyas out of your deck, which was originally your main discard outlet. So I think playing more Mikus could definitely be warranted here. What I think that you give up, the thing that you give up the most by taking out the Rin Shibuya is, like I said, you give out on-command milling. Because Natsuki is on death, and it's got a pretty high cost, so you can't just freely like just use Natsuki's effects over and over again like you could with Rin. Because with Rin, like I said, you could chain Rin into Rin into Rin. You get your deck size to the exact size that you want. You play your early drop healer because you met your deck condition, or you met your waiting room condition, or whatever. So I still feel like keeping Rin is the better choice. I don't think that putting Natsuki into TP is correct, but at the same time, I'm open to seeing what a Natsuki type deck is capable of. So that's my thoughts on the changes for TP at least. So let's talk about some of the other decks. So some of the other decks were affected by this change. It obviously wasn't just TP. So first up, we have like random mono blue decks. So like something that has like Ronco Anya or something like that. Because I mean, like people like Ronco. I like Ronco. I have a second deck where I run Ronco as the main level 3 game, and in that deck I would run both. I would run both Rin and Kome. So sacrifices have to be made here. Personally, I think that the correct choice for any deck running Minami level 1 is still Kome. So that includes both the mono blue type, like Ronco type decks, as well as Project Crone if you do decide to run it more of a mono blue style. The main level 1 that people like to run in a Project Crone deck is Minami from the first set. I think being able to grab your level 1 pants combo is extremely important, so for that reason I think Kome is the correct choice for all 3 of the first 3 decks. So the Ronco kind of deck, a Project Crone deck, as well as a Bluezuki deck. The decks that like to run the level 1 Minami combo into level 3 Uzuki late game. Now Over is a deck that I don't really see a lot in Japanese format. Obviously we see it a lot in English. In fact, I think it's the deck of choice for English format. Now that being said, Kome is not out in English, so I don't actually know if Over in Japanese runs Kome because I don't see the deck. So obviously in English a lot of players like to run Rin Shibuya because they like to run fairly heavy blue count, or actually not even really heavy. I can't even call it heavy. They run like 26 to 28, which I think is a very small number for an Akatsuki effect. I think like around like 30 should be like the minimum of that color or trait that you run in the deck, and if you want to successfully like consistently hit your Akatsuki effects, I think 30 is the safe number. But anyways, yeah, so back to talking about Over. Over does run Minami level 1 combo, so I think that you could make the argument that Kome is the card that you want to keep for the deck. I think honestly, I think TP is the only deck that keeps running the Rin Shibuya level 0. And I think that all of these other decks, they choose to run Kome. That's just my opinion, though. If you have any thoughts, go ahead and leave those down in the comment section, obviously, so we can have a bit of debate on that. But yeah, I think all 4 of these decks, they choose Kome. The question is, another question to ask is, do any of these decks choose Miria? And I think the answer to that is no, especially not Crone, because you run Mishiro. She does all your clock searching for you. And I don't think you run it in any of the other decks. The card that you would want to Miria into is the Minami, which I think you could get fairly easily. The combo piece that you need to search for more urgently is definitely the Climax, and Kome is going to help you do that. And yeah, that pretty much sums up my thoughts on that. So, and finally we have I guess the last 2 decks. I couldn't really think of any other ones that are played a lot. And so we have Mono Yellow and Mono Red, which obviously they're not running a whole lot of blue cards, so you don't care about sacrificing the Rin Shibuya for that. You're not running Power Smile Rin, and Kome could potentially be run in these decks. Like, I do actually run Kome in one of my yellow builds. It's not a very normal yellow build, but I do run Kome in that, and I don't run Miria. But that's just the way I decide to run the deck. But I think that these 2 decks specifically, they're not going to be reliant on running more than one of the cards on the choice list. So I think these 2 decks are safe. So that pretty much sums up my thoughts on Cinderella Girls' restriction list. I'm probably going to be posting a deck profile on my Triad Primus deck, although to be honest, it's not that different from the deck that I played before. So we'll see. I might just make like a small clip showing the changes I made. So that's all for today. If you guys have any thoughts, go ahead and leave those down in the description box below. Not in the description box, what am I talking about? Go ahead and leave those down in the comments below. And yeah, until next time, see ya. This has been Peshcats. Bye.